Okay. Welcome everybody. Uh, Welcome to the Payday Super Laws Explained webinar from Employment Hero. I'm here with our experts, Rob Dunn and Tanya Drerup. Thank you both for attending and putting this presentation together. It's incredibly important, and it really does feed into a long history of Employment Heroes work in making employment as easy as possible for Australian employers. I just wanted to quickly touch on that DNA and just explain to attendees why Employment Hero was created and how the Payday Super legislation just sort of amplifies exactly why we exist and what we try and do for employers in this country. As an employment lawyer, I was several decades ago, I was helping many hundreds of, if not thousands of small businesses who were struggling to understand and comply with Australian employment laws. And by the time they got to see a lawyer, all those little mistakes that had led to an issue, a legal issue, had already been made. And I just wanted to try and make sure that we made compliance automated. And so employers knew that when they were employing people, they were getting things right, and therefore they could hire with confidence and grow their businesses. The more confident small and medium-sized businesses are with employment, the better the entire economy. And I think Employment Hero now, with over 350,000 SMEs that we support and 2.5 million employees that get paid through our platform, has proven that this approach to making employment easier and more valuable for everyone really pays dividends. And whenever we see that opportunity to sort of repeat what we've always done and find a way to solve a problem proactively with technology, then we will dive at that opportunity. Payday Super is one of those opportunities. It is a really significant change to the way employment works in Australia. But this time it's got a bit of a sting in the tail. There are some really important pros to the legislation. I won't say that I don't agree with the legislation. The government estimates that every employee will be about $5,000 a year better off because they will receive their superannuation entitlements every pay period. And over the course of a career, the compounding effect of those deposits in their account more earlier adds up, and it adds up to $5,000 per employee in the country, which is over the course of over the course of decades, that adds up to many billions of hundreds over $100 billion worth of superannuation, which does stimulate the economy and does make employees better off. So that is a very important aspect to bear in mind as employers are dealing with this. There's also the very real case that when employers aren't paying super frequently, then if they become insolvent and their business goes bust, then there is unpaid super. And the estimates are that we're looking at somewhere between $3 and $5 billion worth of unpaid super. And this legislation is designed to prevent that unpaid super accumulating and never getting paid out to employees. So there are some really significant advantages and benefits with this legislation. However, there is also, as I said, a real sting in the tail, and that is that every employer that complies with this legislation will have to bring forward the payment of superannuation, and that is going to detract from their working capital. Our estimates are about $124,000 in working capital that will be chewed up as a result of this, and that puts a lot of businesses in jeopardy. And if we start to see job losses as a result, then those benefits of this legislation could quickly be eroded, and we don't want that situation to occur, which is why we take this so seriously, to streamline and automate the way that Payday Super can be managed so that businesses don't need to stress and become under severe stress, and hopefully nobody ever loses a job as a result of this legislation. We've also, you'll find in the webinar, we've worked hard prior to the passing of this legislation to advocate and lobby on behalf of SMBs. We've sought a range of different changes to the legislation to make compliance easier. We've had one small win, which you'll hear about as well, which is to change the timing for payment of superannuation from 7 days to 7 business days, just a couple of extra days that was added. So that's helpful, but still makes compliance quite difficult. And I also want to be clear that HeroClear, the solution you're about to hear about, how whilst it is the best product in market, or will be the best product in market for managing this new legislation, it does have its own limits as well, which is that it doesn't solve that cash flow crisis or that cash flow crunch that every business will face by accelerating the payment of superannuation. That is something we're also looking at and thinking about and trying to build a solution for, but nothing at this stage that we can present. Just before I hand over to our experts, Tanya and Rob, I want to thank our team for really hustling to pull together HeroClear and this amazing solution that really is a huge amount of effort from our engineering teams, our product teams, our compliance experts. A huge number of people are behind the scenes having pulled all of this together. And I just want to express my gratitude and appreciation for all of the hours of hard work that have gone into pulling this together, so that we can bring Australia and all of Employment Hero's customers the very best solution to what is going to be quite a significant challenge in the midway through 2026. It takes time to prepare for these events, to have HeroClear developed and in market, but also if you're not a customer of Employment Hero and you're considering how to manage Payday Super, I would just like to say you really need to move now. It takes time to evaluate a solution, implement that solution, get comfortable with that solution while it's up and running. And really between now and 1st of July next year, that time is going to go by in a flash. So it's really critical that you assess your situation and the available solutions and get moving as quickly as possible. So with that, welcome again to the webinar, and I will hand over to our experts, Tanya and Rob, to take us through the rest of the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Ben, for joining. Really appreciate that. And I will add my hello and thanks to everyone for joining today. I'm Rob Dunn, one of the GMs of product here, and joined by Tanya. Tanya Drerup is one of our product leads who's absolutely into the detail of Payday Super at the moment, and we'll be diving in with all of us today. So before we kick off, bit of housekeeping. We've already seen questions coming through in the Q&A. Thank you very much, everyone. That Q&A box is active. So we've got amazing team members helping to respond live where we can. We also had over 200 pre-submitted questions today, which we really appreciate. And we'll try and get through as many of those as we can at the end, and those that are submitted live. So please keep those coming through. Similar to what we did last time, this session is recorded, and we will be publishing slides, the webinar, and a summary of Q&A afterwards. So that will all be accessible through our Payday Super site. So if we don't get to your questions today, we apologize. We will definitely endeavor to get to them through those summarized responses afterwards as well. Final point I just want to note is that we've got a huge range of attendees to date, thousands of attendees. We really appreciate everyone jumping on. We've got Employment Hero customers, SMBs that are looking to understand Payday Super, as well as industry groups, collaborators that we've been working with, super funds, and many more. So thanks for joining. We'll really focus on that employer small to medium business lens, but we hope to cover other perspectives as well. And with that, let's dive into the agenda. So we're going to jump into a little bit about Employment Hero. Then Tanya will take us through Payday Super Unpacked, diving into the detail of what we need to do now and what has been set now that that legislation is in place. And then I'll take us through how Employment Hero is making Payday Super simple and what are some key actions for employers right now, before we get to all those great questions that have already come through. quick disclaimer to cover off that everything we covered today, the information is present as at 18th of November, today's date. Everything we discuss is meant to be informative and educational, so it's not to be taken as advice. We'll try and cover as much as we can in Q&A, but we know that some of those details may be specific to certain circumstances, so we may not be able to comment, but we'll endeavour to provide information where we can. And with that, I'll just do a quick intro about Employment Hero for those that are new to our platform. So as Ben mentioned, we run the world's first employment operating system. We serve employers, around 350,000 employers, 2.5 million employees, and we serve them through the entire employment lifecycle. So everything from talent to HR, payroll, and benefits. Today, we'll be really focusing in on that payroll box there as part of the employment operating system, because that's where everything to do with Payday Super fits in. So if you have any more questions on Employment Hero, please reach out to us. And now I'll hand over to Tanya to take us into Payday Super Unpacked.
Oh, thanks, Rob. So just want to start with quickly taking you through the timeline, particularly this timeline, because as you can see, it shows how much has already happened to get Payday Super to where it is today. So from late 2023 onwards, Treasury started consulting the design work. And as Ben touched on earlier, we've done heavy lobbying and heavy engagement across government, Treasury, ATO, industry bodies, the whole system, ecosystem, all the players coming together, funds, infrastructure providers. So from early on, this has been a massive joint effort across the whole system. In 2024 to 2025, we moved from design to being done. The government released the detailed design and fact sheets, draft laws went out for industry feedback, and essentially the ATO locked in dates for when tech and infrastructure must be ready. The bill then passed Parliament, received royal assent a couple of weeks ago, which means Payday Super is now law. So you can see the timeframes have been super tight. Originally, it was recommended to be about 18 months implementation. But in reality, we now have closer to 8 months from law being passed to start date. It's a tight window, but everyone that we've spoken to, that we've worked closely with, is focused on getting the systems and infrastructure ready. For employers, the most notable changes is that real-time payments platform, NPP, was endorsed for Payday. ATO, Small Business Clearinghouse, will be closing by 30th of June next year. And for those employers still using the Small Business Clearinghouse, EH is working on transition options, which we'll touch on a little bit later. So in summary, for this specific slide, big reforms, lots of collaboration, massively constricted timeframes, more constricted than everyone wanted. And now the job we have to get on with is helping employers move on to solutions that are ready for Payday. Next slide, please. So this is where we are right now in the Payday Super journey. The law's locked in and timeframes are clear. And the big question we have is how are employers going to actually going to do with this without drowning with admin and risk penalties. So at EH, we've been focusing on building HeroClear, first of its kind clearing solution that sits entirely in our payroll platform. The goal is that our employers don't have to jump into another portal. You don't have to rekey data. It's designed to be super payday ready in all its complexity, timings, MPP, super stream, living behind the scenes. So the aim is one-click system experience. You can run payroll, click once, and super is sent in a way that meets the new rules, reducing your admin timeframes and dramatically lowering the risk of penalties. So then on 2026, when Payday laws take into effect for EH users, the plan is to have that we will have HeroClear in place well ahead of 1st of July, so you can switch over earlier, test your real payroll environment and hit go live, already confident that your super processes are Payday ready. Next slide, please. So what I want to look at next is what, for the employers, the 3 key changes that will hit the hardest under the Payday Super regime. And I'll go into these a little bit more detail later. So first, there's no more quarterly buffer. Super is now to be calculated and funded and sent every pay cycle. So it really pushes us towards a more automated, tighter payroll process rather than manual end of quarter catch-ups. The second big change is the penalties are getting tougher. Right, so the new super guarantee charge regime applies to late payments, and even small delays can mean higher costs than under the current rules. And the third, the whole ecosystem moves towards real-time processing. So that means your payroll and your super processes need to be tightly integrated and accurate at the time you run pay and not fixed up weeks later. So they're the three main key changes. Next slide, please. So I wanted to cover off some of the big wins that we've been lobbying for at Employment Hero. So for when Payday Super was being designed, it could have easily turned into something done to small businesses and not with them. That's why at EH, we've been teaming up with other advocacy groups and lobbying for a better deal for employers to make sure that the rules reflect how small businesses actually run. And three key areas we really pushed hard in. The first one is around fairer timelines. Ben touched on this earlier. In our paper, we pushed for 10 business days to get super paid. We didn't get the full 10, but we did get it moved to 7 business days deadline rather than calendar days, which means weekends and public holidays don't instantly put you in the back foot. The second item we lobbied for was fairer implementation. We argued that 1 year should be about, or year one should be about helping employers, particularly good ones, to adjust and not hammering them. We know most of you are trying to do the right thing as well as running your business day to day. So that's where the draft ATO compliance guideline comes in. It gives more breathing space for low risk employers in the first year, and I'll dive into that in a bit more detail later. The last one is around fairer penalties, and we push hard on penalties. There's a big difference between deliberately not paying super and making an honest mistake, which we can all make honest mistakes. So as a result, there are now limited exceptions, including situations where you can have up to 20 business days in certain cases before the harshest SG penalties outcomes kick in. So yes, payday is still a big shift, but because of lobbying, the timelines, rollout, and penalties are a lot more kinder than what was previously put on table and more practicable for SMBs than were in the original design. Next slide, please. So whilst there have been big wins, there's still going to be ongoing solution and advocacy work myself, Rob, Ben, and quite a few others are going to be delivering on at EH. Right now, one of the biggest worries is getting penalised for things that are completely out of your control. And I'm talking about delays in banking, data issues between real systems, funds being slow to allocate. So HeroClear is being designed to pull a lot of that risk back into your control because it's embedded in payroll. It runs all the clearing, it validates checks as part of the pay run, and it gives you a clear audit trail, status, and logs for your receipts should ATO, if they do come knocking. The second concern is certainty. So while funds and infrastructure are still being upgraded, you may be asking, am I the one being left exposed? So Employment Hero is keeping a seat at the table with the ATO Treasury industry. So as the rules and infrastructure details move, we can adjust the product and guidance for you. And finally, even with the advocacy wins, cash flow is still a real issue. There aren't special concessions in the law just for small businesses. So to help with that, we've launched a cash flow impact calculator so you can start modeling out what does paying super every day do to my bank balance? What if I move from monthly to fortnightly? So it's a practical way for you to turn Payday Super from a vague worry into a concrete plan of how you can work out your cash flow now. Next slide, please. So next we'll dive into detail in terms of what to do and what it means in detail. So let's look at what passed in Parliament in a bit more detail. So I'm from the 1st of July 2026. First point is on time isn't sent within 7 days. It's when the fund receives the contribution and can allocate it to the employee's account within 7 business days after payday. And payday is qualified earnings day. So that is the legal test. If it's the first payment for a new employee or first time you're paying into a brand new fund, so that's an example of if you've already got an existing employee and they change fund, you can have up to 20 business days for the first contribution because the ATO is just giving you breathing space with extra steps that may be happening in the background. You'll see the term qualifying earnings being introduced, or QE. In plain English, it's basically ordinary time earnings, normal hours, loadings, commissions, plus any salary sacrifice to super. It doesn't include things like termination lump sums. So in summary, for a lot of businesses, this actually won't change how you currently work things out for pay. For out of cycle amounts like commissions or back pay, you can pay by the next regular pay's due date. The super standards are being updated to work with the new payments platform to give clear and to also give clearer error messages. So if something goes wrong, you and your clearing solution can see it quickly and fix it before it becomes a compliance problem. With STP, single attached payroll, it will start reporting on QE, qualifying earnings, and the total super owed each pay once your software is updated. So that means your payroll file will become the single source of truth for the ATO, for yourselves, and for the funds. So that means we're all looking at the same numbers. And finally, the last change is around the maximum contribution space. So the cap on how much earnings you have to pay on super is shifting from a quarterly cap to a single annual cap per employer. So instead of thinking it quarter by quarter, think of it as spread across the whole year. So in summary, super is now traveling on the same timetable as wages. Rules about what you pay super are clearer, and the systems around you being tuned to move money and information quickly. So issues show up sooner and then you can fix it quicker. So diving into the SG charge, this was in the last webinar, but we think it's important to go over this again because you can understand what the new SG charge means. So what happens if super is late? The basic test is the on-time test. Did the fund receive super and have the ability to allocate within 7 business days of payday? If no, the pay is treated as late, even if you paid wages on time. And what makes up the SGC bill? Well, you have to first pay shortfall. So that's what's the super should have gone in. And then the ATO adds notional earnings. So think of it as the interest on that unpaid super calculated daily. On top of that, there's an administrative uplift, so which can be up to 60% of the shortfall plus interest, although it can be reduced if you come forward voluntarily and have a clean record. And if you don't pay SGC within 28 days of ATO's notice, they can add a late penalty payment of up to 25% for first time or 50% for repeated offences. And that part is non-tax deductible. So in closing, the safest move is to treat super exactly like wages, send it with every pay run, use systems that gets it to the fund within 7 business days. If your payroll and super are automated and tightly linked, SGC should be something that you almost never see. Next slide, please. And just to give you a little bit of a working example, here's the Summit Accounting Group, and they have an employee, James. He's a junior accountant on 80K a year. And in this scenario, we will miss super for 1 period. So the actual unpaid super, that's the shortfall. In both systems, it's the same amount. So that's the $923 of super that should have been paid. The interest on the unpaid amount right now is about $7.09, but under payday, it's $4.55 calculated daily. So the interest itself isn't a killer. It's small either way. Now, here comes the big difference, the admin uplift. So today, it's a $20 flat admin charge under Payday, there's an admin uplift of up to 60% of the shortfall. So here it comes out to $553.80. So that's the line that really drives up the costs under the new rules. If you do voluntarily disclose, that uplift can be reduced to 40% or less. So that's about $392.20 in this example. Still more than $20, but a lot better than this full 60%. The penalties on top if you still don't pay. So if you don't pay the SGC within 28 days of ATO's notice, they can add up to 50% extra under Payday. And the numbers on the slide assume that you don't get hit with the extra penalties. So this is just the core SGC. So key takeaways today, no extra penalties, about $950 under Payday with no extra penalties, about $1,481. Cool. And here, after seeing how expensive SG charge can be, the question is, what will the ATO be, will they be hunting for every tiny mistake from day one? And the reassuring answer is no. That's where the draft compliance, practical compliance guideline comes in. It sets out how the ATO will approach the first year of Payday Super. So we're looking at the period between the 1st of July 2026 to the 30th of June 2027. And most importantly, who they will focus on and who they will largely leave alone. So think of it as a traffic light approach, low, medium, high risk. The ATO groups employers into these specific zones so they know who to review first. So you're in the low risk, you're doing the right things, the ATO won't proactively review you. If you're in the medium zone or medium risk zone, you're not perfect, but you're fixing things, you might be tapped on the shoulder, you might be reviewed, but you're lower priority. If you fall into high risk, you're not fixing problems, you still owe super. This group is the top priority for ATO reviews. The zone is based on two simple ideas. Number one, did you try to pay the right SG amount on time on payday? So that's QE day. And number two, if something went wrong, were any final SG shortfalls cleaned up within 28 days after the end of the quarter? So your risk zone can change during the year. Improve behaviour, you move down. Leave problems unresolved, you move up. So in closing, if you're genuinely trying to pay on time and clear any shortfalls within the 28-day window, the ATO's first year focus won't be on you.
Thank you, Tanya. Great to have been through all that detail. And now we wanted to dive into how Employment Hero is trying our best to make sure that we make Payday Super simple and easier. So we really understand that, a lot of this information, the transition can feel overwhelming for SMBs. So we're doing everything we can to make it as simple as possible across policy advocacy, as Ben has talked about and Tanya has, in the space of delivering educational material, webinars like this, our Payday Super site, which you can access through QR code there, and tools like our cash flow calculator that I'll jump into shortly. And also, obviously, our future ready tech. So specifically on a few of those, policy advocacy, as has been mentioned, we've been engaging a lot with broader industry to make sure that the position of SMBs is really brought to the fore. Legislation has now been finalized. We've got that tight 7 to 8 month timeline to really get everything live for employers. And we can report that, there's been fantastic collaboration across all the players involved in that. Treasury, ATO, super funds, payments platforms, payroll providers, to make sure that we're all working towards getting employers ready for that 1 July 2026 date. So it's great to see that focus and momentum going forward now. In terms of the education tools, please do jump onto the Payday Super site using that QR code and have a read through. It's where we will publish webinars like this. It's where we publish all the Q&A summary responses as well, and those will come into your email ongoing. And then finally, HeroClear, that we're going to talk more about today. As Tanya mentioned, we're doing everything we can to make sure that that's fully available well before 1 July 2026. It's going to be the fastest, simplest, most accurate way to process super, because it's going to be fully embedded within your payroll. So designed to reduce all those errors, returns, and Payday Super penalty risks. And so a little bit about the cash flow tool. So again, you can access this one using that QR code if you've got your phone at the ready. But as was mentioned earlier, through our modeling, we really saw that the average employer could be at risk of around about $124,000 in cash flow change that they need to plan and project for in transition into Payday Super. So if you're moving from quarterly to monthly, fortnightly, or weekly, that change in pay cycle will mean that you need to free up smaller, more frequent cash payments amounts for your super contributions. And this tool was just looking to really help you to, at a high level, understand how your cash flow cycle will change and how you might be able to consider maybe adopting a transition into maybe from quarterly to monthly and then on to fortnightly, if that's your pay cycle, so that you can manage that transition more easily. So please do jump on, trial that. We'd love to hear any feedback on any improvements as well. And we're looking into other ways that we can help around that cash flow impact for employers. And then on to HeroClear. So this is really where we see HeroClear driving an evolution in super clearing. So the foundations have been set for HeroClear to be the best platform for superannuation, and in the future, gross payroll and payments well beyond superannuation. So let's look at why it is that evolution. To date, everything to do with superannuation clearing has fallen into two formats. Firstly, there's was and still is the manual approach that employers were using disconnected systems, manual downloads of SAF files so that you could extract all your superannuation information, upload that to a clearinghouse, maybe the ATO Small Business Clearinghouse, which was great, functional, but it left employers moving between multiple systems, manual data download, which resulted in slightly fragmented reconciliations and error handling, and just multiple systems to jump between. More modern platforms do have semi-integrated systems that see employers passing data from payroll out to integrated platforms to complete clearing and potentially do the payments activity, which is a real improvement from that manual process, but can result in still some fragmented processes or slow confirmations or incomplete confirmations. And we're just aware that under Payday Super, those options can be slightly riskier when you now have very tight timelines, particularly if you're looking at a weekly or fortnightly pay cycle. There can be real challenges with making sure that you've closed the loop on an existing pay cycle before you move on to the next. And that's where, when we looked at HeroClear, we really tried to build it from the ground up with that employer-centric mindset and to be fully Payday Super ready from day one. And so that's why we've taken that evolution on in HeroClear Clearing by fully embedding everything to do with clearing into the payroll platform. It means that we can ensure that everything flows from that payroll instance. It means that the platform means you can provide a full line of sight, automation, and confidence through real-time verification and confirmations at every stage, from employee onboarding to payroll preparation to payment initiation and clearing of fund settlement and confirmation. So now we'll dive in to see a little bit more at what it looks like. So I guess the first benefit of a fully embedded clearing solution like HeroClear actually starts well before we get to the payroll and clearing event. And it's how we prevent errors before they even happen. The vast majority of superannuation contribution errors or returns are actually, and any manual handling delays are actually from employee onboarding. So when an employee, they're excited to start that new job, they want to get rolling, and sometimes it can be hard to get your employee to find and provide their superannuation details to you so that you can complete that critical pay run and ensure you're not late with any payments. So that's where the HeroClear solution starts, at digital onboarding. We deliver digital onboarding through our employee self-service platform, which ensures that we compliantly and securely remind your employees to provide their super details and other key information before they start their job, well before the first pay run. All those details are then verified to backing sources. So we look at, Superfund USI and many other key details so that we can reduce the risk of downstream errors and admin delays before they happen. So there's no more chasing up employees to get their details in advance, and it makes sure that you're ready well in advance of that pay run. Furthermore, the employee self-service experience is built to ensure employer compliance. So we've made sure to ensure that the super choice process is satisfied during onboarding. That's all part of the workflows to ensure that employer compliance obligations are met and you don't have to worry about choice loading. And that employees who don't go through a choice process can also then be notified of stapled fund and manage that activity as well. The second benefit of an embedded solution like HeroClear is the simplicity of being able to manage all payroll, super payments, clearing, and confirmations in one system with one click. That's where by embedding HeroClear into payroll, we're able to deliver end-to-end line of sight, automation, and simplicity. So there's no separate super batches to process, no more manual file uploads, no chasing payments, no chasing data from your team, no more double handling. It's all built into payroll to ensure that payroll and super is actually moving money accurately and on time. And it will highlight issues or errors in advance and automate the workflows to fix them. So contributions are calculated and funds are pulled directly from your bank account or from within HeroClear in payroll. Every pay run will move the right amount of money and the right data will flow securely, compliantly, and in real time, ensuring that all those errors or delays that could be encountered in the past are alleviated. And so the third benefit of an embedded solution like HeroClear is the confidence and certainty it will deliver by closing the loop so that you can really know when you're in the clear. For payroll, employees and super payments are all connected in real time, so nothing falls through the cracks. You'll be able to see your employees' super contributions when they've landed with the super funds and track the settlement process to know when you're in the clear on all your Payday Super obligations. So what does that look like? It means that the platform will actually, at an individual employee level, confirm when that 7-day timeline has transpired and you're comfortable that the actual funds have settled with partner funds or the receiving funds. And when there are any errors or returns, as you can see here, HeroClear will highlight these to you and automate the resolution of them by directly notifying and reminding your employees on your behalf to correct any super fund details or contribution errors to ensure that their contributions come through. So this will deliver huge speed and alleviate a lot of the challenges that SMB owners or payroll admins face. It'll deliver clarity, automation, and peace of mind, which is critical when we're moving through this transition with everything that the SMB owners and team have to focus on. And so with that, we wanted to then also touch on what are the key actions that you can look at right now. So what can every employer do right now? We've broken it down into a few key areas to focus on, quick checklist here that you can download and take away with you. As we talked about, obviously it all starts with that digital onboarding. So make sure that you have a platform that is capturing and validating your employees' super details at onboarding to minimize any risk of errors further on down the track. That employee self-service digital onboarding solution is available within Employment Hero right now. Look to embed and automate a super clearing system that is payday ready so that you can start making that transition to Payday Super timelines when you're ready and you understand the cash flow impact. Which gets to the third point of plan and forecast that cash flow impact to your business. And where you can, consider transitioning early. We know that can be difficult, but it can be well planned. Or if you need to look at any incoming cash flow patterns as well. If you're a business that has to manage awards through payroll as well, ensure to just check your award pay cycle rules and default. It's a good time to make sure that all of that is up to date and fully compliant. And so make sure to check those legal obligations, particularly for pay cycle requirements under awards. Make sure to consider early transition to payday where you can, and to make sure that your employees are aware of what's coming as well. It's a great benefit that they're going to receive their super in a more frequent cadence. Remind them that they should be looking out for that and ensuring that it is coming in every single pay cycle, and that they're aware that they need to make sure that their details are up to date. And the final point we wanted to specifically call out, just those employers who are currently using the ATO's Small Business Super Clearinghouse. If you haven't seen, that is closing on the 30th of June 2026. You'll have access to export data and read-only after this date. So you need to make sure that you're thinking about how you will extract data if you need to before 30 June. There's plenty of time in the lead up, but make sure that you're planning that consideration. Anything after that date that you submit through the Business Clearinghouse will be rejected. So make sure that you're planning in advance there. If you are using that platform, again, what you should be thinking about is those items down the right-hand side. Consider your data download, plan your move to another clearing solution, and make sure that that's something that is tightly coupled with your payroll to improve ease and simplicity of the whole process. So just before we jump into the Q&A, we wanted to give you the final next best step. We have covered just how big a shift Payday Super is. And we've really looked at how Employment Hero is delivering the best way to make sure that you can prepare for your payroll changes and everything that will be coming with Payday Super. We've discussed through how HeroClear is going to be designed to specifically support employers through Payday Super, improving accuracy, visibility, and payment processing for you. If you're already using Employment Hero Payroll, you're in good hands. We'll be making sure that all of the features of HeroClear are easily available, one-click sign up, and simply and intuitively built into the current payroll system well in advance of that 1 July 2026 date. For anyone who's not with Employment Hero Payroll, the most valuable next steps that you could consider is an Employment Hero evaluation with one of our specialists. It's a short, tailored conversation to help you understand what Payday Super means for your business and what gaps or needs you might need to address in advance of that 1 July 2026 date. Think of it as a personalized roadmap to preparing and having all that clarity in place. And so if you're new to Employment Hero, we are running a Hero Head Start offer right now. So there's 4 months free and 50% off the setup costs when you join before 26th of November. So that's a great Hero Head Start offer that's available right now if you're new to Employment Hero. And as I mentioned, if you're an existing customer looking to upgrade to payroll from HR to payroll, you also can receive up to 4 months free payroll when upgrading into our payroll offering. Either way, as Ben mentioned, now is the perfect time to prepare for 2026. It's a big year ahead, and it's time to set up your business for that year ahead right now. So please book a session or simply answer the poll that will be coming up if you need to engage or want to hear more from Employment Hero. Our specialists are available and will be in touch with you. So that poll should have come up now. And with that, we will move on to the Q&A. So for our Q&A, as I said at the start, we had around about 200 questions submitted prior. I can see that we're up at over 150 that have come through during this session. So we're just going to run through a few of the key themes that we heard in the pre-submitted questions. We really appreciate those. Thank you everyone for submitting those. So we'll run through some of those. I see that some of them have been answered in similar responses already in the Q&A, and then we'll try and get to some of the live Q&A questions that came through as well. So next slide, please. And Tanya, do you want to kick us off with the first pre-submitted questions?
Yeah, so do employers need to do anything, or will HeroClear run automatically? The answer is employers will need to opt in and select their preferred payment method. But with HeroClear, we'll automate the process from that point forward. So it's as simple as that. We'll make the setup as simple as possible and guide you through every step. So we will make it as frictionless as possible. Next question, how is EH implementing Payday Super, and when will HeroClear be available? HeroClear will be available well ahead of the 1st of July 26. It'll be fully embedded into EH payroll, so employers can process super at the same time as pay runs with automated validation and confirmation. So for those of you who are interested, that's why we've been saying get onto our payroll platform sooner rather than later. Question number 3, do we still need a clearinghouse to pay super? No. HeroClear removes the need to use any external clearinghouses, which I touched on earlier. So you don't need to jump in and out of platform. You don't need 2 separate logins managing, 2 separate portals. So everything's done within one platform, processed, payment, confirmation. That is all done within EH payroll platform. Rob?
Number 4 is KeyPay set up to handle Payday. Those that don't know, KeyPay is the payroll platform that Employment Hero works with as part of now Employment Hero Payroll. The answer is yes, the KeyPay or Employment Hero Payroll will be Payday Super ready because HeroClear will be fully embedded within that payroll experience to make it a one-click, simple process for everything to do with Payday Super. Number 5, will HeroClear be available across all EH payroll tiers? Yes, we are working our hardest to make sure that HeroClear is available to all tiers of Employment Hero payroll and available through as many of our payroll partners as possible. We want to make sure that it's available to everyone to make it simple and easy for Payday Super. Question number 6, we currently use BPay for super guarantee payments. Will this be automated? Yes, HeroClear will be automating payments, but I would say that BPay is one of the slower payment options. It can take a couple of days sometimes to process, and with those tight timeframes of the new Payday Super requirements, it's recommended to look at some of the more faster, more real-time MPP type payment options that can ensure that you reduce the risk of falling outside of that 7-day timeline. How is HeroClear different from Beam? Will Beam be compliant? So for those that aren't using our platform, Beam is one of the semi-integrated clearing solutions out there. There's a number of clearing solutions out there. It's a traditional clearinghouse that's absolutely, and many of those clearinghouses in market are all working to be compliant with Payday Super. Everyone will be progressing towards that. HeroClear will just be the first fully embedded solution inside payroll. That means that we can work through everything from onboarding and the automation and validation of details to simplifying the process and automating workflows in payroll, and then closing the cycle after by making sure that all those errors are automated with notifications straight to your employee. So the whole industry is working to be compliant, and we're just looking at that embedded solution with HeroClear. Tanya.
Cool. So next question, is EH ready for the member verification request process? So for those of you who aren't across what the MVR is, lots of acronym coming with Payday Super, so upfront apologies about that. But essentially, it's a new service that ATO is introducing that will validate that your onboarding employee, or if they make a choice process changing their super, that you can do a check to ensure that it's ready to be paid into and that it exists. So yes, HeroClear is built to fully support MVR requirements, including verifying employee fund details before payment goes out. So you have that absolute peace of mind with new employees or employees changing their super funds, that'll be ready for your payday. So we're pretty excited about that one. Next question, when is super considered on time? I touched on it quite a few points throughout this webinar because I think repeating is very important to remember some of these key details. So super is considered on time when it's received by the fund within 7 days of payday. So not when the employer initiates the payments, it's when it lands. Next question, will EH have USI super fund validation? Yes, Absolutely. So HeroClear will include USI member validation using ATO improved tools and direct fund integrations. Rob?
I'm pretty sure we do have that definitions and terminology listing on our Payday Super site. If not, we'll need to make sure it's there. But as Tanya mentioned, there are many acronyms. Sorry, we've missed one there. USI, Unique Super Fund Identifier, just the number that every super fund's allocated in the broader SuperStream ecosystem. So question 11, how is Payday Super managed during shutdowns or when payroll staff are away? I saw that come through as a live Q&A as well. So employers should really look at managing their Payday Super payments the same way that they manage their current pay runs, because it will be fully united within that pay run experience. So HeroClear will automate the validations and payments throughout that period. Businesses should really look to review their existing pay run workflows and how they run any backup or movement of timing for pay runs when you have a shutdown period. You know, many businesses may pay payroll early during a shutdown period. It's completely fine for super contributions to run to that same cycle. It'll all just be part of your STP submission, which will have your qualified earnings calculation that's submitted alongside your STP, and that will all reconcile through with the payment. Question 12, how can an employer manage Payday Super if an employee doesn't provide super details? So the ATO requires that default fund contributions are available to employees who don't provide their super details. Also employers, and through the Employment Hero platform, if an employer doesn't nominate choice of fund or provide details, we have access to the stapled fund API through the ATO, so you can call and confirm your employee's existing super fund if they have one. If they don't, you may look to put them into a default fund, the employer default fund that you've nominated. The main thing is that the onus really is on the employer to either capture that employee's choice, check their stapled fund and confirm that, or nominate a default fund for them. The employer has to conduct those activities to make sure that one of those options is then provided to ensure that the employee's super contribution payments are paid into one of those options. It is on the employer to make sure that that payment does go through. As mentioned throughout the process earlier, Employment Hero's digital onboarding service, employee self-service, has that all built into the workflows to make it digital, simple, and easy. And we remind the employee to provide those details early. Next slide, please. Thanks again for all those that did submit all these questions prior. I think I've got one more that I'm throwing to you. Is it Tanya? The next question was, when is super due for contractors, invoice or payment date? Another one that I saw coming through in the live Q&A. So super is tied to the payment date, not the invoice date. So that would be your qualified earnings date. It's the payment date. If you obviously need to consider if that contractor is eligible for SG payments, but the payday that you pay them will align with that payment date, and the 7 days will transpire from then. Tanya.
This was another tricky question. If we pay monthly on the 15th, half in arrears, half advance, what's the super payday? What if someone leaves mid-month? So your super payday is still the 15th, because that's when the employees are actually paid. If someone leaves mid-month, you still pay super on their final payday. Any overpaid super is corrected throughout the adjustment in the next cycle. Funds rarely refund contributions once received, so you want to make sure you get that right. Is there a grace period for late payments? How strict is the 7-day rule? There is no formal grace period, and the ATO has been very clear about this. That's why they've released the draft guidelines as well and had the risk process in place. So super must be received by the fund within 7 days of payday. Late payments, as I touched on earlier, can trigger the SG charge penalties, which, again, as I touched on earlier, much harsher than today. Another question, how does EH handle and support when there are fund mergers? So In HeroClear, we've built it to automatically update details when fund mergers happen or when there are changes to USI and routing details. That is part of the fund merge. We'll flag anything, we'll flag those details to the employees whose details need reconfirmation. So ultimately, we're building it to reduce the risk of payments bouncing due to outdated information. Next one, how are super fund overpayments handled? Overpayments are mostly handled by reducing the next contributions. Refunds from super funds only occur in limited situations and must follow strict ATO rules. So HeroClear will help you identify and manage those adjustments. Rob?
Thank you. Next question was, what changes are coming to STP, single touch payroll reporting? So the qualified earnings definition that Tanya outlined earlier will be added to your STP reporting. That is something that will be updating payroll so that the calculation of QE earnings and the reporting of that will be part of your STP reporting activity that will run through our standard payroll updates and changes. Next question was, when are quarterly super payments due for the period ending 30 June 2026? So quarterly contributions still apply up until 30 June 2026. It'll really depend on when you're currently running your quarterly payment cycles, but the final quarterly payment must be received by funds by the 28th of July. And then from 1 July 2026 onwards, the Payday Super rules apply. So it's recommended that you look at that run into the 30 June period when your standard quarterly payments are and how you want to settle up that intervening period to then move over to that payday cycle from 1 July onwards. How will the rules apply to directors and closely held employees or sole traders? So firstly, for sole traders, normally as a sole trader, you wouldn't be paying superannuation in the standard way through a payroll system, so they fall slightly outside and it's more self-managed for a sole trader. But for directors and closely held employees, if they're paid under a wage that does attract super guarantee contribution payments, then they're treated the same as any other employee. And Payday Super applies to them due to that existing wage arrangement. If payroll is wrong, how do we fix super? Can super be paid a day or two later? So corrections should be made in the next pay cycle. It is not recommended to make super payments a day or two later because that is squeezing that 7-day timeline that you have that Tanya's outlined to make sure that the funds are received and settled with the super fund. Any payments delay will increase the risk of falling outside that timeline. So it's best to usually correct within the next pay cycle. HeroClear will help to minimize those errors by highlighting when there is an error or delay or helping you to reconcile through any corrections that you want to undertake. Tanya.
Cool. Next big question, how will bookkeepers, BAS agents be protected if employee super info is incorrect? Unfortunately, SG penalties apply to employers and not bookkeepers. So HeroClear reduces the risk by validating fund and the member data before contributions are processed. So errors are caught early and agents aren't blindsided. And the last question, will the rules differ for small micro employers or seasonal businesses? Unfortunately, no. Payday Super applies universally. Although we did lobby for micro employers, it's being applied universally. The ATO has not created separate rules, as we touched on earlier, timings or allowances for small seasonal employers. So it's important you find a system that can actually manage it all for you, like HeroClear. Rob?
Thank you. Look, with that, we're actually at the end of the pre-submitted questions and we're right at time. So we'll say a huge thank you to everyone that joined. We've seen huge attendance today. We've had a lot of additional live questions, which we will endeavor to do those summarized feedback and Q&A responses that we'll email out and will be accessible through our site. Thanks to everyone who attended and to those who helped with all the preparation and our experts helping with the live Q&A as well. And there will be feedback forms coming out, and we really appreciate feedback to make sure that we take that on in the next webinar update, because we're obviously doing a series of these in the lead up to Payday Super to help SMBs and all employers as much as we can. Thanks again, and have a great day.